Today, I had the honour of sitting down with Ivan Rose, who has moved the needle on therapeutic services. Ivan is an award-winning cognitive hypnotherapist. He's a counsellor and mental wellbeing specialist. He's the creator of CHANT, cognitive hypno-neurotherapy, and TBT, time bomb therapy. He is a diploma practitioner trainer and CBT hypnoanalysis practitioner, and also a master neuroplastician. Ivan is an international speaker, author and personal development expert dedicated to helping people improve emotional well-being, build resilience and create lasting positive change. I've had some really wonderful conversations over the last year or so that I've got to know Ivan. He is a deep thinker and he challenges me, and I love spending time with him and exploring his thoughts and sharing mine with him. And I really hope you enjoy this conversation with Ivan Rose. I guess we'll get going then.
Okay.
Right, Ivan, thank you for coming in today. I really appreciate it. I really do. And having seen you this morning at the gym as well, of course. Look, for people who don't know who you are, who are you? Who is Ivan Rose?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you so much for inviting me today. Feel very honoured to be here. I've been looking forward to this. Who am I? And what do I do? So that's a good question. I think that I am someone who, I have a genuine desire to help others. I think I have a genuine desire to resolve problems for people with their mental health simply. And I have a genuine desire to simplify mental health because it does not need to be as complicated as everyone thinks it is. And I've spent, a lot of years perfected it, and now I've moved on more about emotional regulation, and I'm working with a midlife woman mainly now because they are in all kinds of trouble at the moment, struggling with brain fog, poor sleep. And what I do know is that with emotional regulation, with nervous system help and functioning better, people can manage themselves so much better. So I'm not medically trained, so of course I can't help but fix them medically. But, in life, it's not about what happens. It's very often how we perceive what happens and what we do about what happens. So if we run our minds in the right way, if we are emotionally regulated, if we do clear our trauma, and if we do have a really strong relationship with ourselves, and we realize that we're not losing our minds, we all live much happier.
Mm. And the compassion that you have for, well, not just others, but for yourself. Like you have a really compassionate perspective on a lot of the conversations we've had. I've felt. Going back a bit, you've pivoted a few times in your life. I think it's fair, chatting to you about some of the businesses and the history you've been through, and like what you're doing now is an amazing project, direction that you're going in. But you have pivoted a few times, and I'd love to go through some of those changes that you've made. But going through those changes, is there anything? What initiates that change for you? And how do you recognise when you need or want to pivot? Is there something you're kind of in seek of?
Well, I just wonder if I work on a process of elimination. I was window cleaning at 16. I was car cleaning at 14. And there isn't many businesses I've not tried and failed at. I've tried so many, hundreds of things over the years. And in fact, I even had a cooker cleaning business, which lasted a day because a friend of mine and myself went to his mum's to clean her cooker. And the chemicals we were using had burnt off all the batches. So that one didn't last very long.
Okay.
But I think I've just have a genuine desire to self-improve. I think there's a huge expectation on youngsters. What are you going to do when you grow up? Oh, I want to be a policeman, or I'm going to join the army, or whatever the people say. And there's this massive expectation. But the truth is, most people do not know what they want to do. And so you start in life doing something that you have to do. For me, I actually did paint and decorating because I needed to earn money, and I took a job and I just worked at it, and I didn't like it, but I did it. And during that time, I decided to write a book. It was a novel called The Run, and it was about some things that I knew people were up to. And I felt a little bit aggrieved, I guess, because these people were had a legal activity, making a fortune, driving posh cars, and there was I on a building site every day, climbing ladders, doing a job I hated. I mean, I was on ladders virtually almost every day and scaffolding, and I've always been scared of heights. So it wasn't an easy time. But I wrote a book, and I was so proud of the book, and I got a little write-up in the Echo, and then nothing really came of it. I've only got one copy left. And I just muddled my way through. And I remember going to painting in London Road, Southampton. Fox and Sons estate agents used to have different premises, and it was like an old house. And I went there, and we were painting the wood chip wallpaper. And there was a notice on the door saying negotiator wanted. And I remember looking at that notice and thinking, what's a negotiator? I had no idea. And then I found out what it was because I asked, and I remember thinking, oh, I wish I was good enough to get a job like this. I genuinely thought that. And then as years went on, and I was doing artexing and some different things, trying different things. And then a friend of mine became the manager of an estate agent, and he offered me a job. And even then I was thinking, gosh, offered me the job. And I took the job, and I was very successful at the job for probably the first 3 months. Nothing happened at all. And I was just about to quit. And I took the job and just went from strength to strength. And I won Negotiator of the Month in the whole Southeast region, which was probably the biggest thing I ever won. I haven't won a lot in that respect. And then, and the next thing, we opened our own, and that didn't work either.
You opened your own estate agent?
Opened my own estate agents, called People's. It was in Totton back in about 1990.
Why People's?
It's just what we decided to call it at the time. And then we ended up going our separate ways, and it just didn't work. We were competing with all the big boys, and we had no money. In fact, it was so bad, we took a loan off someone, which we had to pay back, and it wasn't an easy situation. I'll leave it there. We had a car between us, and the car used...
Who's us? Sorry.
I had a business partner at the time.
Yeah, okay.
And the car that we shared, it was it was using more oil than petrol. We had to bump start it every single day to get it going. And I used to have it, because I used to have a slight incline where I lived. Bump start it every single day. We used to have to wash the back of the car to keep our suits clean. Really. It was that serious.
Wow.
Anyway, things went on from there, and I was literally out of business. He went on his own way. He opened another one, and he went there, and I stayed in the original. And we were just on our knees. I was just on my knees, and I'd written a check for the rent and the secretary, and they were going to bounce. And I was like, I'm done. I'm out of business. And I was pretty upset. And as weird as it sounds, something very strange happened, because I started thinking, what am I going to do? And I went to a friend's house that night, and they didn't have any money, but they had got a loan for some windows, and the windows weren't in for another month or two, and I had a small pipeline. So they loaned me the money, and overnight I changed from estate agency to lettings, to rental properties. And then all of a sudden, all the corporates, they were all my friend. They went from being my enemy. I send all the investors over. Oh, go and see Ivan. He'll look after you if you buy a property through us. He'll manage it for you. And I was the first person actually to start residential lettings outside of the city centre. And so I did that for a number of years, and then I had decided I want to do something nice, because it was a very, very confrontational business. I didn't like it at all. And
estate agents have a reputation, don't they?
Yes. Yeah, they say.
My dad was an estate agent for 50 years, so I can't.
Well, you know what
too badly of.
you know what they say. You know why they have big windows?
To
give them something to do in the afternoon, looking out the window, because they didn't do a lot.
Well, yeah.
Do you know what? They get bad press, but it's not an easy job. It's not. No job's easy, and the negotiators, they get really worked hard. The expectations, the hours, the wages are poor, And yes, it looks nice because they might have a company car and might have a nice suit on, but that's just front loaded. The reality is I don't believe that's true. And I don't think these corporates are particularly, generous to their staff, unless you're really good. And then, of course, everybody wants you.
Maybe we're getting a bit grand too soon, but I think ownership of property and land is a big part of what makes the world go round, right? And I think that ladder from selling homes and going into commercial property is quite an allure. I think if you're a young person who's wanted to get into work, there's quite a career line there, which I can see why people get into that.
So I did that for a number of years, and I created great success. I mean, I grew up with nothing, and I had great success. But then I decided that I would try something different. So I wanted to go into food. And I just, in a way, part of me just wanted to make people happy. And the conference, I mean, over the years, I had my window smashed. I was sued constantly, threatened. It's very confrontational because
as an estate agent,
as a property lettings agent.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
And what happened was this company approached me, and these people were buying what's called the right to buy. So if someone sells a property, let's just say you've got a council property and you want to move out, well, you can get the right to buy, so you can buy it at a discount.
Yeah.
So there's companies out there, or there were, saying, well, if you're moving out, we give you X amount of money, we take the right to buy, you'll sign an agreement with us, and we'll be legal owners of the property. And so this company had like hundreds of them, and they had quite a few in Southampton in all the tower blocks. So it was I took the business, but it was a very hard business, very difficult business. And then I was actually in America, and I was with a friend who had an Italian friend, had a restaurant, and I said, do you know what? I'm thinking about doing food. I think I'll do burgers, maybe pizza. And he was like, hey, you should do a cupcake, a bigger thing. He was Welsh, no? And Italian guy. Anyway, so I came back and I thought, and I looked at the model of Krispy Kremes and Dunkin' Donuts and what was the other? Millie's Cookies. I was looking at all these and I was thinking, do you know what? There is an opportunity here.
What year is this?
This was, I'm going to say around 2003, 4, maybe a bit later, maybe around 2005-ish.
Yeah, okay.
So I contacted West Key, and eventually a unit came up. It's now Timpson's shoe shop. And so...
Which one's that?
On the ground floor.
Oh, yeah.
It's bubble tea next to it now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Opposite,
like that weird sort of like toy shop, adult toy shop thing. Yeah, okay.
So I got that, and I spent, quite a lot of money opening that shop, and then I needed a bakery to supply all the cakes. We were doing ice cream, gelato, shakeaway, copies shakeaway with their milkshakes, and we were doing the cakes and giant cakes, and it was actually, it was going really very well, but it was impossible to make money because of the overheads. So then I sold my lettings business to a corporate company, and then I invested in 3 more shops.
So when you set up the cupcake thing, you still had the lettings business
in the beginning, which it was a mistake, terrible mistake.
Because I've got a very recent experience in handing over businesses, and it's a big thing,
massive, yes.
And so were you able to kind of how did it go handing that over to someone else?
Well, actually, yeah. Do you know what? I was so done with the business. To be fair, I should have held on to it in hindsight, but I was just at that point, and so and it was funding the shop for quite a while, and the bakery.
Yeah.
So then I sold it, bought 2 more shops, and I made a bit of an error. I opened up a shop in Bristol, and it
cake
was
shop. Yeah.
Yes, and it
what was the cake shop called?
It was called Dream Cupcakes.
Dream Cupcake.
And basically, it rained every day in Bristol. Honestly, I realised anything west in the UK of the British Channel, it's wet. So it didn't really work. So there I am working 7 days a week. I mean, lots happened to me. I broke my ankle, falling, rushing for trains, all kinds of things happened. And it just, the force was against me, just everything I did. I ended up, and then of course, I'd met someone in America. And so I wanted to be there. I didn't want to be here. It was just an awful, awful time. But I have to be careful what I say on podcasts, but the people that run these, well, then I'll say it, the people that run these shopping centres are as ruthless as it gets. Absolutely. They call the shots. They tell you what to do. You know, back then they charged me £500 just to have the water tested in a brand new store. Anyway, they've got all this, there's all this regulation and so,
I couldn't imagine.
So
I wouldn't want to imagine.
right.
Because we set up business because we want to be entrepreneurial. We want to be, we want to be innovative and dynamic, and we want to kind of adapt to the market and do what we want to do. Right, we want to be the boss. But if you're you're
not the boss.
You're in a big commercial centre. Like, are you really calling the shots? And you're just kind of at their mercy.
Yeah.
It's how I've kind of imagined it.
Well, so the shop in Bristol, I thought, do you know what? I've just wasted so much money on this. I'm going to stop. I'm going to sell it to someone else. So I let the people that run the shopping centres know. And the next thing you know, they sent bailiffs to my other shops and charged me a fortune for it. And I said, why are you doing that? They said, well, we're frightened you're going bankrupt. So then my staff started leaving. I lost a really good manager. And I was so frustrated in the end. I'm limping. I didn't want to be here. It's freezing cold. I'm miserable. I'm run out of money. It was just got me in such a bad situation. I just threw the towel in on it. But I put a secured loan. I've secured my home with these shopping centres. So now they're saying to me, we're going to take your house off you. No leeway. I end up in a huge situation with them. And I end up paying back a lot of money. And it basically took me back 15 years to where I'd gone from nothing to everything, back to nothing. And I was absolutely distraught, as you can imagine. And I really just didn't know what to do. And so I ended up agreeing a huge payment plan with them to keep the house. And I rented the house out. And then I got offered a job in Ipswich with some import-export company through someone I knew from America.
Right.
Who was actually turned out to be one of my mentors. He was an amazing guy. He's gone now, bless him, Tom. But anyway, there I am in a dingy house, in a bedsit, in Ipswich, thinking, oh my God, what? What's happened? How can this happen to me? And obviously I've got to take responsibility for it. I'm not saying I'm not taking responsibility, but yourself, when you're running businesses, when you're entrepreneurial and you work on your own, it's tough. It sounds much more glam than it actually is.
Yeah. It is. Yeah. Being on the coalface.
Yeah.
And there's risk. You have to put yourself out there, and sometimes that pays off, and sometimes it doesn't.
No.
And I don't think part of being a successful entrepreneur and businessman is having taken some hits along the way, right? Because
absolutely,
that means you're pushing the boundaries, and that's where you learn as well.
You've got to have a certain type of persona, haven't you, to do it? To have the strength to do it. So there I am, and I saw an advert saying train to be hypnotherapist, and I thought,
next logical progression.
I thought, do you know what? No, I used to be a Samaritan's counsellor. I worked in the Samaritans voluntary in my 20s. Right. I always want to give back because I had a really difficult upbringing, and I always want to give back. So anyway, I saw this advert and I thought, do you know what? I'm going to do it. Because it would give me some purpose. I hated the job I was in. I was working in this import business, and the manager there, he didn't like me. He didn't like the fact that I was good friends with the owner, and he just didn't like me. And it was a very unpleasant. I used to go in dancing. Oh, what an atmosphere, because it was so bad. But anyway, so I went for the interview. So you have to be a certain type of person. If you're going to help people mental health, you've got to have some emotional intelligence. So I went for the interview. And I remember the chap said to me, the first thing he said to me was, "What a great name you've got for this type of business." And I didn't really think much of it. And I did the training. Again, I never intended to do it for a living, ever. And I thought I enjoyed it. It gave me something to do at the weekends. It gave me lots to study on to fulfill my time because I was on my own there. And I completed it. And even then I thought, I need to go back into business because I want to make some money. And I wanted to get back what I had, and everything was really kind of going the other way for me. So, but at the time my mother was ill, and the house that I had a little chalet in the grounds that I could live in. So I moved into that. I mean, it's like a shed. It's basically made of wood. It sounds glam, doesn't it? A chalet? No, let's cut the chase. It was a glorified. It used to be a shed.
Yeah.
It was a carport, and it was just a shed. And I had no TV. I had this terrible problem in my neck from sleeping on the couch, and no heat. It had a little bit of plug-in electric heaters, but anyway, I just thought, I just started meditating. Well, the first thing that happened when I started meditating in a really big way is I started writing comedy. I don't know why. I just started doing it, and I then all of a sudden, it just came to me. It was like, forget business, forget money. You're meant to be doing this, because I really took well to it. And then I still studied everything. And I studied trauma clearance, hypnoanalysis. I did NLP. I did havening. I did all kinds of different cognitive behavioral therapy, child psychology. And I just become like a sponge. I just become obsessed with mental health. And really, it's kind of gone from there, really. And then I went to, when you do something called hypnoanalysis, which is root cause clearance, just helping people with trauma or upsetting memories. Well, the chap said to me, trained me, said, you have to go and have it done. You know that. I said, okay. So I found someone and I went for the session.
Were you excited?
How
did you feel like going in? Because you're taking a turn towards this, right?
Yeah.
And this is going to be your first time experiencing it yourself?
Well, the thing is, I was been messed up my whole life. I've had struggle all of my life. And I didn't realize until I started training. And then it was healing me. And that's kind of what happened. So as I was doing it, it's healing me. So then I went for this sort of hypnoanalysis. And I literally abreacted straight away, which abreaction is when someone has an outburst, tears or some type of outburst. It's called an abreaction. And the abreaction is very powerful. It's almost like clearing the trauma. It's like meeting it head on.
Unblocking the tube.
Yeah. But the chap said to me, I've got some friends. Again, I was still learning. I still didn't plan to do it as a job. I was just absorbed by it. I was still trying to sell some shutters and doing some other things from import export. Went to China and everything over it. But anyway, so and he said, look, I know there's people who've got a practice in Southampton, and I think you'd be perfect for them. So then all of a sudden, I'm now working in a practice. And then I had this autistic child come in, and I just got an amazing result with him. And the mother was just overjoyed. And then another child came in, and the child ran out in the middle of the session in the morning, 11 o'clock. And it was right by the junction of the motorway. And she is absolutely freaking out. I don't know what overtook me. I said, don't worry. He's not going to be far. It's going to be absolutely fine. I said, where's your car parked? She told me. I said, we'll be back in a minute. Sure enough, he's by the car. And I just said to him, I took a huge gamble. I mean, but I just felt like I had an intuition, I guess. And because I've been there myself, I was a runner. I was running away from home at the age of 13. I lived on the streets for a number of years. And because of all the things I did, I think I just developed this, like if you're trying to work out what someone's thinking, but if you think, well, what would I have done? What did I,
Yeah.
So I think people, if you're that kind of person. So anyway, it worked out great. And then all children started coming to me. And then as time progressed, I developed the Mr. Ivan app, and I did lots of other things. So I've had a sort of bash at general mental health and trauma clearance. And then I got involved with teenagers and getting great results. The problem with working with youngsters is great if they want to and they're invested, fantastic. But if they're not, it's tough because the fathers are dragging them there.
Yeah, I've worked with kids a bit over the years, and I've had the privilege of having kids come to me because they want to be with me. I'm coaching them in
Yes.
sort of in sports, and when it's their choice, or when they're told, it's very different. It sounds. We've had the privilege of talking a bit over the last year or so, anyway, and I think getting to know you, it is clear that your desire to want to help other people, it comes from just such a genuine, like you clearly get such satisfaction out of supporting other people in the troubles that they're facing. I think it's beautiful. So, and I really want to get onto the Mr. Ivan app and all that.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
So,
and I started writing books. I've written 10 mental health books. And then I had the opportunity to present at the World Hypnosis Conference in Chicago last year and the UK. So
can I just check it? At this point, are you still thinking is this now your career?
Oh, yeah. Do you know what? When I went to the practice, when I worked in the practice, that was when it all changed. And then I realized slightly before that, I kept thinking, this is, if I look back, if I had more confidence, if I had had more knowledge or more support, I would have probably found it earlier. And going back to that conversation we had at the beginning today, you find yourself in the end, the pressure on youngsters is unnecessary because, we can all change our careers. We can change it. We don't have to stick with the same career for the whole of our lives.
Yeah.
We really don't.
I mean, you are the example of that. And I've talked with you a few times about how you kind of pivoted on things, and the strength of character it must take to go from cupcakes to imports to therapy to just the changes that you've made that have taken you to different parts of the country. Is brave. Takes real bravery.
I wonder, sometimes, I came up with the saying I thought I shared with you earlier. It sounds a bit self-derogatory, but it's not. But I just think I'm just a coward with a lot of guts. I've got the guts to do it. I feel the fear and do it anyway. And that's my advice to people, because anyone that tells you they're not nervous or not worried about things, I don't believe them. And actually, if they're not at all, then there's something else. Perhaps they don't have the emotional intelligence. Perhaps they don't have the sensitivity. That's why they don't feel that. But most people are going to be nervous before they do something significant. You put yourself in the public eye. You're open to criticism. People are going to watch this. They're going to make their own perception, their own view. But reality is that the people's perception of us will be based on their own perception of themselves. Because one of the things I've noticed over the years with I've worked with thousands of people now, and I realized that you are what you project. It's as simple as that. If you project hate, you will get hate back. You will feel hate. And you can't you can't really like anyone if you're hating yourself. And if you project love and kindness, well, that's a positive energy. So the energy you're putting out is basically like a mirror. It's coming straight back to you. So what I say to people, if people are unhappy and miserable and spreading, hatred and anger towards people, it's no wonder you're getting more back. It's really not even, it's not rocket science. It's actually really, to me, it seems really obvious.
Yeah. And you started at the beginning of this to explain that your view is that mental health is is actually really simple, and that it gets overcomplicated, and we need to just kind of you have a very sort of simplistic, simplistic is maybe undermines what you're doing. You've done an incredible amount of work in the field, and I don't mean it to be sort of reductive, but yeah, you have a way of expressing it in a simple way, which is what we need.
Trial and error. And I don't think, I mean, obviously, there's something that needs to be addressed in psychology in the world, and that is really the difference between mental health and mental illness. There's a huge difference, but it kind of blends into one thing. So people wear mental health like a badge these days, because it benefits them. That's another story, I'm sure. That's another tangent, isn't it?
Yeah, save that. Well, stick a pin in that one.
Yeah, absolutely. But but the mental illness obviously is something very, very different. But one of the things I've discovered, and I use it now for what I'm doing now, because as you know, as I explained earlier, I'm niching a bit more now. But but one of the things I realised is that if you've got three parts to you, and literally I sat down one day and thought, this cannot be this simple. Surely someone else has thought of this. I'm just a normal person. Surely, and I couldn't find anyone or anywhere that has. I suspect they have, but no one in the sort of mainstream. And I thought that there's just three areas to your mind. Assume you don't have mental illness. By the way, I'd love to find another word for that, for mental health. I think that would be really nice. But the first thing is...
So what do you mean, another word?
Well, mental health sounds like you've got something wrong with you. And I don't think people have things wrong with them. I think they have unhelpful thinking patterns. And I think those thinking patterns are based on their experiences and what they're not taught, and, and how they manage things.
Could it, I've gone off on a bit of a tangent then, but then because mental health suggests that it's something it's just there, it's present, it's given to you, it's a thing that sits on you. Whereas mental fitness, something that suggests that there's an owner's responsibility to exercise it and to go and work it out. Have you got another suggestion as to what?
Do you know,
it might be?
I'm pretty good at coming up with things, but this one's got me a bit stuck. I brand myself as Ivan Rose Mental Wellbeing. I use mental wellbeing. I think that's nice. And mental fitness is a good one too. I think that would work too. But again, that implies, for people that are working on themselves. Here's the thing. If someone doesn't go to the gym, let's say they're young, there's nothing wrong with them. They may not work out or play sports, but they're healthy and they are fit.
Yeah.
So we think, well, only people that work out and go to the gym are fit. But that's not true. And I think it's same with the, upbringings account for so much, all right? And if we're not taught how to do things, we're not taught how to manage our thoughts, and this sounds cliched to say that we have to be in the present moment, but we really do, because there is no tomorrow. And all sadness comes from yesterday or the past, and all anxiety comes from the future. So if you're in the moment, then you have negated a lot of that. That makes sense?
Yeah.
And then basically, so my three things that I think everyone should have if they want to be in good shape mentally. Number one, they've got to have good inner dialogue, good self-talk. Most people are running around on emotion. Most people are behaving emotional. If you behave emotional, you're living in drama. No business in the world makes decisions emotionally. They go bust. Their decisions are made on facts and evidence. They're made on logic. They're made, insurance companies, algorithms, other companies use data or analytics or history. And so the first area is managing your inner dialogue. And I've created cognitive thinking rules. Again, if you think about it, there are rules. Even with this setup you've got here, there's rules, isn't there? A microphone has to be this far away. The lighting has to be, if you ride a bike, there are rules. You hold on to the handlebars. The brakes are there. You pull the brakes when you want to stop. There are rules to absolutely everything we do, or a system. You can call it a system if you like, but let's call them rules.
Physics. Maybe.
Physics.
Yeah.
So why can't we have rules to manage our thoughts? Well, we can, and we do. and I've created them. I've been using them for some time. And, you know, and because the common problems for most people is the emotional regulation, is the overthinking, the overanalyzing, the overworrying, the overreacting, and it's all emotional. So we are emotional creatures, absolutely, and there's nothing wrong with that. But we also need to know that, you know, we need to know, you know, emotional will make us make bad decisions. And people with the right sort of upbringing that are taught that young, you see that how much more people say, well, they seem very mature for their age. Is it maturity, or is it just the knowledge that's allowed them to become more mature? And the second area is yourself. If you can't love yourself, you cannot be happy. Everyone wants to love their image these days. That's it. No one's connecting to their soul. No one's connecting to who they are. When you connect to who you are, you know, if you can learn to love yourself, obviously I don't mean that narcissistically, but be best friends with yourself, probably a better way to put it. You'll have self-trust, you'll have self-acceptance, you'll have self-belief, you'll have self-confidence, you'll have self-value, you'll have self-esteem. But if you hate yourself, and it's one of the questions I always ask every client, if you hate yourself, then you will have self-hatred, you will have self-harm, you will have self-sabotage, you will have self-defeating thoughts, you know? And so if you're high in that level, you're going to feel happy. Look, life doesn't go perfect for anyone. And a lot of people think, because I do what I do, life goes perfect for me. Of course not. I get problems like anybody else. I have things happen. And the third area is sort of how much baggage we got from the past, because upsetting events lie dormant in us. They affect us. You know, people can have a really bad relationship.
Say that one again.
So people have had upsetting events.
Mm.
It affects our behavior.
Yeah. Okay.
An example of that is somebody may have been hurt in a relationship 3 times. And now they say, I am never going to be with anyone ever again. I'm staying on my own. I don't need anybody. That's just self-protection. And that's what it does. So it causes self-protection. It also can cause you to, you know, it just causes a lot of fear. And fear is the enemy. It's like anxiety, you know, people feel anxious, but the truth is, it's not a bad thing. You know, we just don't want too much of it. Anxiety keeps us safe. Anxiety just keeps us cautious and together. But it's all about how much of it we have. So, and this premise has been working for a very long time. And now I'm working with midlife women, and it's slightly different, but it's the same premise. I use the same premise. It's, you know, manage your nervous system, manage your emotions. It's get to love like yourself very much, best friends with yourself, someone you can trust, someone is always there for you. What they say, I saw the other day, the best romance you can have is with yourself. And there is some truth in that. And then, you know, and deal with these upsetting events from the past, make peace. Don't be angry with people, you know, forgive people, because again, you're the one that's suffering. And this is another thing. You know, a lot of people really struggle to forgive people that hurt them. And I try and every day, if ever in my mind, I remember something, and lots of people hurt me, of course, lots of people have been, you know, not very pleasant to me. But every time I think of it in my mind, I immediately say, that's okay. I forgive you. I release you with love. Because not for them, by the way. It's not for them. It's for me. It's because I don't want to carry that pain and that feeling, because I know how damaging, how detrimental it can be to my well-being, you know? So we've all got to have, so we can work on those 3 principles, but we've all got to have self-preservation. People are so kind to other people and yet so hard on themselves. I mean, what's that about? I'm not saying be kind to yourself and get up in the morning and drink a bottle of vodka. No, I'm saying be gentle on yourself. Be gentle with yourself. You can drive yourself hard. I drive myself hard. But at the same time, I also pat myself on the back. When I came out from the swim this morning, I told myself, well done, congratulations. I'm really proud of you. Because everyone's looking for other people to give them what they can already have, in what they've already got. They just need to know how to tap into it, you know? And I think that's a very important message too, because everything you want is we're built for survival, are we not? We're born alone, we die alone. I mean, that's just we are actually alone. And we've just got to figure out how we can get comfortable being uncomfortable and being happy just being who we are.
It's lovely to hear the way you put it into simple words sometimes. Just summarise the three things one more time for me so that I've got the three titles.
Yeah. Number one, manage your inner dialogue. Learn to be less emotional, more logical in your thoughts. And there's rules for that. Let go of things that you're out of control of. You know, what's interesting is here's my reality. And I think all of our reality. This is how I see it. And that this is what came to me. It's like, we have so little control of life. We are so disempowered. We actually have no control. We're not in control of, the colour of our skin, our eyes, who our parents are, where we're born, our environment, where we, other people, government. When we die, we're only in control of one thing. And that's all we got to focus on. One thing, our behaviour in the now. That's it. And so the three things are, one is managing your emotions or managing your inner dialogue, your self-talk. Second is developing a strong relationship with yourself. I mean, obviously, it's not always easy to do. You need help to do it, clearly. And the third is, is to make peace with the past and accept perhaps that you were meant to have. If I look back now and think I've had so much hardship when all this happened, we talked earlier about how I ended up in a bedsit in Ipswich with nothing and no money and absolutely on my knees. I also had a personal breakup as well at the time. But actually, did that not lead me to where I am today?
Yeah. Look, as you're talking, I want to. You know what I've realised? I don't have a pen with me, and I'm like, I want to write down. I know about these things. We've talked about it before a little bit, and it's nice to hear you kind of expand on those. And every bit of me wants to not every. I want to dive into each of those things with you. But actually, I'm keen to explore like some of the other stuff that we're kind of. I'm keen to explore AI,
absolutely,
and technology, and what that's the impact that has in the way that we are achieving those three things. Because clearly, to improve, to be that inner dialogue, to be able to love ourselves and to make peace with things that have happened in the past. Those are things we need support for sometimes. And that's where people come to you and get guidance. You understand where it is they need to go, and you're willing, I presume, to have challenging conversations with people, to challenge people's views on themselves and opinions about themselves and the things that have happened in the past, to help them realign them to be in the best order so they can move forward with their lives and put things to peace, put things to rest. And I've been looking into the use of AI in supporting people in those conversations, that people are relying on those a little bit at the moment. We're seeing a huge trend towards that. You made a call like a year ago, was it? And at some point, let me know, like when you launched the Mr. Ivan app, which was
it was about 6 years ago.
Oh, was it as long as that?
Certainly 3 or 4 years ago, yeah.
So talk me through it. So you're using a form of a chatbot to accompany the services you provide. What is Mr. Ivan app?
So there is a chatbot in there. That's just for general information for anyone who just needs a bit of guidance. And I use the chatbot just to guide people around the app, mainly because I created lots of videos. I've created lots of hypnosis audios. But I also have a chat box where people could contact me and ask me questions in confidence.
Mm.
And I think, and that's a big issue, isn't it? Because people feel uncomfortable sharing with people they know, so they share with AI, don't they? And that's a whole new subject. But the chat box is really just, and also because it's connected to Chat GPT, people can ask all kinds of questions. So, but yeah, and it helps because I think we as human beings we kind of want to understand ourselves better, and understanding ourselves is it sounds fairly simple. It's actually very deep, isn't it? I mean, what is understanding yourself? Understanding things about yourself, and you can't fix a problem unless you find the problem first. And a lot of people are running around, behavior is, off the charts and lots of things happen, but they don't see the problem. They don't acknowledge it. But if you're able to think in a way, it's called it's metacognition, isn't it? And you can think about yourself. And I would really encourage anyone to try this. Just try and think about yourself objectively, and look at your behaviors and look at the things you do, and think about it and think what it implies and what it's going to lead to. We're all on a trajectory. So if I was sat here now and I was smoking 40 cigarettes a day and I was drinking a bottle of whiskey a day and I wasn't doing any exercise and I was full of bitterness, what is my trajectory? It's bleak. And then there's never any guarantees for outcomes. But if my trajectory was, I'm doing everything right, I'm taking care of myself, I'm eating healthy, I'm doing everything I can, my trajectory looks a lot more positive. So I think, people can take a different observation of themselves. Look at your trajectory. Is it what you want? Is that what you want in the future? One of the problems also, I think, for human beings, it's a bit like weight loss. We want instant results. We want to feel great straight away. But it's not true, is it? It's not there. You've got to be more, I saw that quote, was the quote, your future self will be grateful for this. That's a really good thing to use.
I like that.
It's true. Yeah.
Yeah, the relationship, oh gosh, it is something I've been thinking about. The relationship I have at the moment with the past version of me and the future version of me, and oh God, I could go off on one. But I think being able to have forgiveness for past me's actions at times, and trying to serve up some goodness for the future version of me. Yeah, on silly little things, but going to the gym, it's tough. I don't want to do it, but then I feel good for it afterwards.
And that's a superpower, isn't it? And earlier you said, how do you keep going? How do you stay motivated? That's kind of it, isn't it? Because you're able to know that you're going to be happy when you've done it rather than unhappy. So it's about learning about yourself.
Whilst building this setup,
it looks fabulous, doesn't it? By the way, it really does.
Smashed it.
You did.
But at some point along that journey, I put a flipping screwdriver in some wood glue, because that's what I needed to do in that moment, whatever. I didn't clean it off afterwards. And then, the next day, I need to go and use a screwdriver, and it's covered in wood glue. And I curse at myself, and fuck's sake, Tim. And I'm like, I'm angry with the past version of me. Angry, fuck's sake. I'm like, and it's only like momentary, it's just a fleeting anger, but then that relationship, I'm like, oh no, it's okay. I forgive you. I forgive me. I forgive what I did. But also, I've got to learn from that. And then in future, just like, do you know what? I'm going to clean the glue off of this, not for me right now, but for the future version of me. And it's about, and so I spend a bit of time thinking about how I can have, and that's a very small example, but then you can extrapolate that into bigger relationships and greater things in life. just having that relationship with who we are.
So that's an emotional response, isn't it? That's an emotional response, and we also got to think carefully about how far we go with it all, because I've noticed that. So I have a tendency to be a perfectionist, but I don't allow myself to be one. I think that people who are perfectionists causes, when your expectations are too high for everything, you're going to be unhappy. If you think everything you do is not good enough, you're like, I could have done better. Well, you're not going to be happy. So perfectionism, and also it's very common with people that suffer depression to have perfectionism. And so you have to have a level. I think the best thing to do, if you can laugh at things, it's better. Look, we're all going to get frustrated with things. I do. I was trying to do a video in my phone storage. I was like, oh my God, But then I thought, well, does somebody not want me to make this film today or to do this today? And that's just life, isn't it? I think that life is full of these little idiosyncrasies, these little difficult moments, these little challenges. But the thing is that when it happens, like that happened to you, but next time you won't do that, will you? Because you'll know.
I don't know. I reckon I might.
You might.
I'll give it a
Not
go.
on purpose, anyway.
I think I'm really cautious about swearing at myself and saying "fuck's sake, Tim," and beating myself up over stuff. I'm really, really cautious about that, and so I'm not sure it necessarily. I'd like to think it does make me behave better in the moment, but I certainly want to have great forgiveness for myself and what I do. Yeah.
Then that's a gift, and you have that, which is amazing. But a lot of people don't have that. Some people just don't have that.
No, I don't think it is a gift. I don't think you think it's a gift either. I appreciate.
Well, it's an ability to be able to do that. Absolutely.
Well, it's training. I've not always been like that. I definitely have been through times in my life where I've beaten myself up over shit, which is just like unnecessarily. And I've and a self-awareness of that, and trying to love myself, but like just trying to actively train myself into and catching myself in the moment when I'm doing it, because sometimes you don't realise.
I mean, to have the gift to be able to self-reflect, because a lot of people can't do that and don't do that, even though it's not pleasant for you, but you are self-reflecting, and that's it's frustrating, of course. But a lot of people don't even notice it, do they? A lot of people just have their behaviour going on, and they have no awareness, of what's happened or the consequences of their actions, or, So I do see it as.
Is it learnable?
That's a really good question, actually. I think anything's learnable, isn't it? I think I think we all have natural abilities and gifts, and interestingly enough, what I've noticed is, like, most men have the gift of. So I think there's 5 intelligences. I work with 5. Of course, there are more.
Hit me.
Okay. Number 1, academic. Okay, academic intelligence. The ability to remember what you read and be book smart.
All right, I got 0 out of 5 so far. Let's go.
I wouldn't say that now. Again, these aren't things that you've excelled in. These are things that you naturally have the ability to do if you want to try at it. Like, some people could be great at things they don't try at, but you've got the natural ability. The second is social intelligence. Okay, not everybody has social intelligence. Some people are quite socially awkward, and that's difficult for them. They struggle to converse with people, and that happens. The third is emotional intelligence. And not many men have emotional intelligence. Most men have the next one, which is practical intelligence. Not many men have my experience is that men generally either have practical intelligence or emotional intelligence. Now, those that have both are very blessed. They make great surgeons. There are people with both. I know people, and in fact, you're one of those people. I think.
Thank you. Do you have to hang on, because I've got a perspective on surgeons which is maybe different to yours.
Yeah.
I always think of surgeons being as slightly emotionally gung ho.
Yeah. Quite often autistic.
You reckon? Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, I've had consultant surgeons over the years, absolutely. You know,
It's
but
not
it gives them
disconnected.
it just gives them an ability that to be
Mm.
able to be like that. And then the other one is problem solving. So if you're a good problem solver, some people aren't. So a lot of things depend on what you're naturally good at. I think you can learn anything to a degree. Like to teach someone emotional intelligence, you have to train them to be empathetic. You know, when they're kids, you know, when they're small, teach them to love pets, that love animals, teach them to feel sorry for other people. But again, if it's not in you, it's not in you. You
Mm.
know, so you know, this nurture nature, some things are genetical and some things aren't. So just going back, so some people just don't have the awareness of other people. In fact, I saw something the other day, which I'd love to claim I come up with it, but I didn't. And I come up with a lot of things. And what I saw was someone said that people that are just outspoken and just shoot from the hip, they lack emotional intelligence. And that resonated with me.
Hang on. Say that one again.
But people that say, oh, I call a spade, you know, I just tell it as it is. That kind of
Right.
mindset is a lack of emotional intelligence. Great topic, great question. I tend to
I'm not
agree
sure I
with
know
that.
what that means. When
Well,
someone says, I call a spade a spade.
Well, they're just abrupt and blunt in their speech to others. So they're unable to take into consideration whether they're hurting that person's feelings, their awareness to the situation. And if you don't have that awareness, then you don't have emotional intelligence, right?
That's almost like a bravado way of deliberately saying I don't have emotion. Then it's like the badge is I don't
Yeah.
get caught up in that fluffy shit. I just
Yeah.
okay.
Well, look,
So then
everyone
you got to
has.
break down like why they're deliberately trying to block that
Yeah.
almost.
Yeah. Well, look, everyone has a little bit. I'm not saying don't have any whatsoever. I mean, obviously psychopaths don't and sociopaths, but generally everyone has something. I'm saying they have a lower amount. It's like, I am so impractical. Okay. I am. And that's why I had to have the interview before I became a therapist, because that was part of what you need to be a therapist. You know, you can't be gun ho like that as a therapist and be very successful. So, you know, so I think that you just have to work with what you've got and improve. You can learn things to a degree. Yes.
Segue into you using AI recently, which I know
Yes.
you've been using a fair bit.
I do.
And you've just
love
said
it.
you're not a practical person.
Yeah.
And we were chatting this morning where I was asking if you have any Photoshop skills, which I don't think you do.
No, no.
No. So, which I don't know if that's a practical skill. Probably is. Anyway, but what have you managed to do? Because you do wake up in the middle of the night from the conversations I've had with you with like these like fantastic ideas of where you're going to take your week, take your business, take your life, and you're very nimble in the way that you approach things. How's AI facilitated you in making changes you do?
Well, one of the things AI does, it brings a lot more quality to the table. You know, for instance, you know, if you've got a degree in English literature and I didn't go to school, well, assuming I can read and write, of course, then AI evens the playing field a bit on that respect. The way the analogy I came up with was that came to me the other day, was that if you think about a Formula racing car, you've got a driver and you've got a car, and the driver is only as good as the car. But with AI, all the cars are the same. So it's broad, and the interesting thing about AI is that so it's as good as the driver now. So if you're good at prompting, if you're creative, and what I've realized with AI is that your personality shines through in AI because it's your knowledge, it's your prompts, it's your thing. So when I get AI to work for me, it speeds everything up. I can do a task that would take a week in a few hours, but it still requires my sort of know-how and my mindset to make it work. So we all have the same car now. So now it's down to the driver. So if you're more creative, if you're more, I mean, obviously, if you're better educated, that helps. But I think it favors people like me massively. I didn't go to school that much, and and a lot of people don't believe that. I've run away from home. I used to play truant. I still managed to pass my exams. I don't know how, but I did. But the thing is that but you can self-educate. I'm a student of life. Not everything's about maths and English and geography. There's much more to life. I mean, I think studying human behavior, which is what I do, and people's natures and people's personas, that's a whole different education system, isn't it? Completely different education system. You're not taught that at school, but nevertheless. But if you apply the knowledge that you have, the skill sets you have into AI, well, it almost becomes a superpower, doesn't it? Just now I was saying about some people have certain types of intelligence. Well, people have different types of abilities. Somebody might be really good at, I don't know, photography or, but when you apply your knowledge into AI, it really almost is a superpower now because you can,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so to be like, you've done a phenomenal amount of work in developing hypnotherapy and therapeutic services pre-AI. So you've developed the CHANT philosophy, and you've written loads of books, and you've moved the needle in that industry significantly pre-AI. So do you think that will the use of AI, let's get into the detail. How are you using it, and how does it help you move the needle further?
So I'm also a master neuroplastician, so I use a lot of neuroscience, and I mix things. And this is the thing. So mixing things is where it's at. If you go to a bar,
I've got an image of you literally mixing up like mad scientist. Yeah. Sorry.
No, some people go to the pub and they they pour beer, and someone makes cocktails, right? And then the cocktails are much fancier. They offer you much more flavor. They offer you much more fun. So my therapy, for instance, is a mix of everything I've learned, and I can tailor make to each person. So with AI, it's almost the same principle. If I've got a creative idea that's come to my mind, I'll put it in, and I correct it a lot. I notice, because it's flawed, isn't it? It gives you, it doesn't always give you the right answer. Like the other night when I woke up and thought, so I went to bed, and I was thinking, as I went to bed, I kept thinking, surely I've got to find another way to get people on board. My webinars easier than just keep posting. Everyone's posting. No, people aren't reading. People aren't watching videos enough. So I had this idea to create some cartoons. Okay, it just came to me in the night. I woke up, and it came to me around 4:30 in the morning on ChatGPT, saying to it, "Okay, I've got an idea. I want it to be a little bit of dry humor. I don't want it to be comedy per se. I want it to be a little dry humor so middle-aged women can relate to it when they got the brain fog, when they go to the fridge and they can't remember why they're there, when they've got all these handbags on them with all different issues attached to it, and someone's saying, just be positive. And so it's a nice way. So I've come up with an idea of getting people to relate easier. So the idea was mine, but ChatGPT created the cartoon for me. And people will see it on my social media, because I've been using them quite a bit. It's only happened the other day. But as I went to bed, I also asked for the help. I also said, I've got to find a solution to this. I need to find something else, something in my ecosystem of marketing that's a little bit different. And then that came to me. So then you work with AI, and you start saying to it, well, actually, I've got this idea. Can we do this? It says yes, and it gives you the pluses and the minuses. And I don't always agree with it. You know the statement I said earlier? I said, I'm just a coward that's got a lot of guts to do anything.
I like it.
And ChatGPT didn't like that. it said, well, I think that's, I don't think you should phrase it in that way. So I disagree with it. That's okay to disagree with it too. You don't have to.
Do you run ChatGPT?
So for instance, with ChatGPT, I might say to it, give me this answer based on psychology, based on how people think. So, how you prompt it. I mean, I think there are courses on prompting. I don't prompt it in a way that perhaps you get talked to if you did a course, but I do it my way, and I keep challenging it.
Like you said earlier, with what you put out into the world is what comes back. And if you put positivity out there, you get positivity back. And if you put anger and negativity out, that's what spins around on you. And I do wonder, not just on an individual level, if you or I, when we're chatting with our AI agents about what's going on in the day, and is it a bit of a mirror for us? Does it kind of reflect back who we are a little bit? Does it use our language to kind of encourage us to, if we're asking it for guidance and directions, is it using the vocabulary and the words that we've used with it in the past back at us because it wants to relate, because that's what it's trained to do, perhaps?
Well, I think it does. Sorry, go on.
Well, yeah, but then also just like on a larger scale, like if humanity, if the billions of people around the world are all like it is a mirror back of who we are.
Well, that's the beautiful thing. Look, if you look at LinkedIn, let's just take LinkedIn for example. Okay, people post on LinkedIn every day. It's all AI generated, all of it.
Fucking head in.
And you can think to yourself, and I actually said this to ChatGPT. I said, how is this going to work? Because if everyone's just generating talk, it's almost like people are sat there generating talk, posting it on LinkedIn, and it's going on over and over. But it can't generate my 3 ways to manage your mental health. It didn't generate that, but it will work with it. It didn't generate the prompts that I put into it, but it will work with it. So we're developing personas on AI. And that's really interesting. And actually, it's not samey, because it will work based on. I mean, it's the same in the terms of the way it probably writes and the way it sort of looks at things, but it it just bounces back to you from what you've told it. So, and also, you've got to think need a human element too. And I don't, because you have to, like. You can train AI, can't you? You can train it. So I'll say to it, everything that you do, make sure it's in the best interest of, of people, make sure this, blah, blah, blah. I'll come up with lots of different commands that I want it to be. So you tailor make, if somebody wants, I don't know, if somebody wants a building quote, yeah, dead simple, of course. Somebody wants a letter written to sound like a lawyer's, dead simple. Create a CV, dead simple. But when you use it for communications, let's say you use it for LinkedIn posts, or you use it for writing books or whatever it might be, then it shows your persona and it works on the things that you've taught it about you.
Do you think that it has the capability yet or in the future to genuinely support people in times of need?
Yes, I think that it can be very supportive. Again, as long as you have made it very clear to it what you're looking for and how you want it to, how you want it to think.
But you know what to ask it for because you've studied all this stuff. You've studied the human behaviours and therapeutic services that support that. But for someone who is, for want of a better word, a bit broken or troubled in their life and has experienced trauma, it is lacking introspection. And can it help them?
It won't clear trauma, no. What's going to happen in the future?
Why not?
Well, because it's interactive. Because if let's just say I was working with you right now and I've got you into hypnosis, all right? And I'm now going to do what's called the bridging method or the chapter method. So I'm going to regress you and take you back. You're going to tell me what your issues are. I'm going to help you search. I'm going to guide you. And then I'm going to notice when you come across something that's uncomfortable, and I'm going to stop you in your tracks, and I'm going to deal with that issue then. So people just don't all of a sudden realize exactly some people know what the event was, but sometimes you don't. You know, you can have events that lie dormant. One of the things I always ask people after they've had root cause therapy with me is, did you think of things that happened a long time ago, or were they all relevant to your situation? And because on the first session, I make it easy. I do what's called the blowout technique. So I'm not talking on the first one. I'm just guiding them in their mind. And then when they come across something, I say things like, remember a time when you were sad, and I'll blow away the sadness. So I don't know exactly what's going on in their mind. So I'll ask them. And very often they say, yeah, I've thought of things I haven't thought about for years. So they're lying dormant, these issues. They do affect our behavior, the way we think, the way we feel, and the way we behave. So I don't know how AI can do that. I don't know how AI can interact in that way, and perhaps in the future. But the problem also is AI is very matter of fact. And we talked earlier about emotional intelligence. Well, it's not going to have that. It can be compassionate. It can be, it's not going to have the emotional intelligence of a person, and it's not going to read you in that way. So it would struggle with that. With the cognitive rules, yeah, can do that for sure. Absolutely. And with learning to develop relationships with self, yeah, it can do that too.
As I understand it, a lot of when people are talking with ChatGPT or various other AI agents at the moment for therapy, I've heard that it tends to favour CBT, cognitive behavioural therapy, as a means of providing support, because that is the most documented form of therapy in modern society, and that it tends to lean that way, rather than hypnotherapy or NLP or other things that might be going on. I don't really know much about other.
Well, CBT is just one modality. All right. I use it. I've used it in my CHANT, cognitive hypno-neurotherapy, which is what I've created. It's a modality. And CBT is in it, of course. And it's a fantastic, the NHS in the UK massively embrace it. I don't think it's enough on its own. I think because I know there's more than just thinking logically, there's more than just training yourself cognitively to being in good shape. It's just not enough on its own. What needs to happen, I use CBT in hypnosis. I'm a mixer, and I think that, I'm like the DJ of mental health, but
spinning bottles around people's mental health.
But it's not a one size fits all. It's not, and it never will be. I think that hypnotherapy has got a much stronger place in mental health as well. And I think it's, I don't agree that it's just CBT. But AI will help with CBT for sure.
Yeah. But, I don't know. Do you know what the latest wait time is for CAMS or for any kind of mental health services with the NHS?
Yeah, I've heard.
I don't know.
It's quite a while. I think it's about 8 weeks, but it changes all the time. It's quite a while. You've got steps to wellbeing and you've got CAMS. I have people.
I thought it was like 8 months.
Yeah, no, it can be longer. I don't know exactly, but I've had people coming to me because they don't want to wait.
So as a foster carer, I've had various kids who have come into the care system who have experienced, serious trauma by being removed from their families, and they need support with that process. And they can wait up to a year to get therapy.
Wow.
And these are children who have been removed from their families by the council, in a sense, by the council, and then they're just so disconnected from other services that they're waiting. It's phenomenal how long it all seems to be taking. And I hear different numbers all the time, but then like it just seems like such an obvious thing for people to reach in their pocket and say, "This is how I'm feeling today. Like, can you help me out?"
Yeah, well, yeah, and you know, it's better than nothing, and it will help people out to a degree, and it will make people feel better. I think AI is probably going to have a big place in therapy, but I always think that people that can afford it will always want the human interaction. You know, would you rather go to a machine or would you rather see someone?
Will they?
You know,
I only mean to push back because I'm thinking of a teenage girl who's um, overspilling with embarrassment and nervousness and anxiety, and the thought of sitting down in a room with someone she doesn't know, or being able to go on to fucking TikTok or whatever it is where the AI bot is and just like chat away, and get that support there and feel that that's now their friend who supports because they've got a name. They've anthropomorphized.
yeah, for that sort of age group, but it's probably all, you know, it's like saying I do online and I do in person if people are local.
Yeah.
But most people prefer face to face, actually. But actually, online is more distant. Is probably easier to share your feelings. It doesn't feel so connected. But, you know, what I do is very audio. But you know, when people in the future, you know, it'll probably be done by sort of some virtual reality, won't it? You know, so you can still talk to me, but you'll just put your headset on, and you know, who knows where it's going? I mean, it's a fascinating subject, isn't it?
Well, I love that you're.
Does that mean I've got to retire soon, or?
You'll just create an avatar of you and send it to
Yeah.
work. I mean, hey, I'm pretty interested to explore where we go with this. What's really cool is that you're open-minded to it all. And I was chatting, I'm going to try to not identify this person, but a friend of a friend who I met last weekend who has been working in therapy for 40 years, and she's a phenomenal therapist. Well, I've never had therapy with her, but she's had a great successful career, and she's, I think, a little bit frustrated with there's a bit of lost so many clients to ChatGPT over the last couple of years, and she sees that turn, and she's very anti it, and rightfully so. There's a lot of caution to be had, and it's not all like I'm certainly not advocating to say that it's a great thing to go and get therapy on with AI. I have no understanding about all of that, really. But what's great with you is hearing how much you're using it yourself, how much you're leaning into it, and how open-minded you are to where it will go. And we're not sat here now saying, "Well, this is what it's going to look like next year or the year after." But let's just keep playing it day by day and see where we go with it, and be open-minded. And hopefully there'll be an avatar of Ivan Rose at some point as well.
You know, it's going to be a mix, isn't it? I'll say it again, the third time, it's going to be a mix. It's going to be a mixture of probably a bit of AI and a bit of reality. But, you know, in the future, you know, maybe there'll be new things coming out. I mean, I've created a new modality. So I've involved neuroscience and my premise. And people will, you know, you've got EMDR, that works very well for trauma. You've got, you know, there's NLP. There's a lot of modalities out there. And new things will come along. New things will come along, won't they? And in the future, you know, people are becoming safer as well. You know, we're in the safest time of history right now, aren't we, so far? And people are becoming safer, so people will have less trauma. You know, there's other factors that will influence it too. You know, at the moment, if you get a generation of traumatized, I mean, let's just look at, you know, country like Palestine, or let's look at about Ireland. You know, they've had generations of trouble there. To clear these takes generations. So you've got massive traumatized people that grow up seeing violence and then grow up to deliver violence. And so, so I think perhaps society will get to a point where things are policed in a way that people perhaps have a bit less trauma, because that could also be a factor too. I mean, we have no idea. I'm just stabbing in the dark here, but
You just open the door to a whole nother conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. So there'll be other factors, and also people, the more secure someone is, the less difficulties they're going to have. So, so probably what needs to happen in the future is we have to relook at the way children are educated. And this is where it's all at, and AI would be, because if the foundation's in place, then AI will have a bigger effect, easier effect, help people more. And maybe they'll be able to do it with AI. But if, in schools, for instance, they say they do mental health. We talked about 3 steps to wellbeing and CAMS. The waiting list is horrendous. I've heard things, don't do a lot. I mean, so I think we have to change the whole mindset game on this and say, and educate the children, get the children being healthy in the beginning, get them dealing with things immediately, because children are always in the present moment, okay? And that's the beauty of children. But when they get to, puberty, that's when things change. They go from not caring what people think to be conscientious about their behaviors and what they do.
Yeah.
So the way that it would work really well is to relook at education and say, okay, part of what we're doing. Now, they did an experiment in America, actually, and they had this school somewhere, and there's a lot of kids that have been in trouble. Dad was murdered and found in a trunk of a car. And they started to bring meditation into the classroom. And they were teaching the children to love themselves. And they were changing. They were not going into the life of crime. And so there is evidence to suggest, also, if we look at mental illness, when we look at psychedelic drugs, I mean, there's another factor that's coming in as well, isn't it? So maybe all these things will be cured in the future. Maybe there'll be no need. Maybe AI will be able to look after the needs that are there because the foundations have been put into place. So if you get the foundations into the children, get it in young, they know what to do. They know how to deal with their issues. And then, absolutely, then, therapy will be a completely different ballgame.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. I do, but that's a generational change, and I suspect that the times that we're working in here may not accommodate a generational change to happen. So to be reliant on just where people are talking about where the world will be in 10 years, in 20 years is phenomenal at the moment. It's kind of mind-blowing in terms of technology. And so, yeah, absolutely. You're right. It needs to change at an educational level. And when you spoke earlier about your wanting to help other people, it's like you're emotional about that. I can feel your emotion on it. I feel it. And I think having that human in the loop to deliver that emotion is going to be really essential. But for the education and the therapy and everything that goes through it.
We've just developed a society, a materialistic society, haven't we? It's all about who's got the most money, who's got the nicest car, who's got the nice, and actually satisfaction doesn't come from that. Yes, it does play a part. Absolutely. I'm not saying it doesn't. But, what people don't think, I'm not, the reason I like to help other people, is because it makes me feel good. I get a lot of pleasure. And so if we can become fulfilled from doing positive things for others, I mean, our life is enriched.
Yeah, how do we bottle that?
Sorry?
How do we bottle that
Well,
and start mixing that?
again, we have to teach people young, and make people realise that we are mirrors of our behaviour, as I said earlier, and and try to find a way, because life is, it's a rich tapestry of life, and there's all sorts of things, and you've only got. I used to go to a Buddhist centre, and I've been to a couple of retreats, and it's an unbelievable atmosphere. It's not when you're around lots of like-minded people, when you're around in the company of kind people, nice people, like I am with you. The feeling's great, isn't it? It's a wonderful feeling to feel relaxed and to allow yourself to be yourself. People don't let people be themselves anymore. People are too critical. People immediately point out their flaws. I see someone earlier today being rude to someone for no reason. It's just not the way forward. So I think that we've got to realize that, hey, there are several ways to be happy, and not just chasing material possessions is the way forward. So you've got to have, because I always think that success requires three things. It requires hard work. It requires, passion. You've got to enjoy, and it requires commitment. And you've got to, if you don't have those things, invariably the novelty will wear off. And that doesn't matter what it is. You can have $1 million yacht, but if you're not really into sailing or boating, it's going to wear off if you get fed up with it. So how do we get fulfilled and stimulated on a day-to-day basis? Well, once you've made a lot of money, then that stimulation is going to be gone. If you do something like, if we get stimulated by, I don't know, let's say we watch a show that we like on TV. Well, the show changes every week or whatever. And so we get stimulated and we enjoy it. So we need things that are constantly evolving and constantly changing. But if you get pleasure from other people, if you get pleasure from helping others, it's infinite. You can never lose it, because there's always someone else or something else going on. And then, of course, things like enjoying looking after yourself, enjoying, taking care of your health, and, it's just all about doing things where you see the progression, where you feel the progression, where you get joy from it. Something I always say to people, really simple thing to do to calm your nervous system is hum.
Oh, yeah.
That is, really simple thing to do. Calm your nervous system. Do things that make you happy. Do things for yourself and for others, and life will pay you back. It will reward you. And I've had this thought many times. I guess my question to you would be, if you do good, does it mean you get good? Does life work like that? Well, AI will tell you it doesn't. I've asked it.
If you do good,
if you're a good person and you do good for everyone, does that mean that you're going to, in other words, doing good deeds, does that mean you'll get good deeds back? AI says not.
Really?
Yeah. It says it doesn't
stupid.
correlate like that. But again, I disagree with that too. Because if you're doing things and you're feeling good, you've already won. Or you're playing music, or, there's joy in so many other things than just materialistic things. And as I said, there's nothing wrong with wanting materialistic things. No one should feel bad about that. Absolutely. Go out there. That's what you work for. That's what you want. Fine.
Yeah.
But, get joy from playing the guitar. Get joy from, watching your children. Just try to find joy in other things, I think, is the way forward, so that you've got a more rounded way of feeling fulfilled, rather than just one thing.
And that's, I think we're kind of coming drawing to an end at the moment, but that is one of the biggest questions at the moment, which is where do we find fulfillment? Where do we find, how do we enrich our lives in a world where we've got just everything is abundance, and what do we do if we don't have work? Because people are concerned about that at the moment, of course, rightfully. Then where do we get our enrichment from?
Well, this is why,
from helping each other and leaning into
it's interaction with the other humans. Because AI, this is where AI can't serve us, isn't it? It can't serve us in that way. So interaction, I mean, let's just say you're a robots out there. Would I enjoy this the same? No. I enjoy your company and I enjoy the moment. And that's so important. And that's really a really good way to look at the difference between humans and AI is AI will do a lot of things for you. Absolutely. But it won't give you that feeling, that fulfillment that you'll get from just human interaction. So human interaction is premium, isn't it? And it will become more premium,
Yeah. Yeah, I think, and the way the products and services that we're able to sell and the way we make money, or make money, support ourselves, provide for ourselves, whatever the future, I think is a more service-based future, and which we see now, about this kind of IRL, is it, in real life, people providing in real life services, which is a way of adding value to something because it's your time. You're giving people your actual time.
Well, I come up with a little strap line for this, actually. If you do things with love, you'll love it. But if you do things with hate, you'll hate it. So if you hate your job, hate doing your job, for instance, you're going to have a very boring, horrible, long, miserable time. So one of the goals to do, if you can, and obviously it's not easy to do all the time, but one of the things is, if you try and do things with love, and you'll love it, it's really, again, it's quite simple.
It is simple. It's how do you stop that cycle though? Because some people don't enjoy their work and they'll endure it for years and years, or so how do you jolt people out of, of that?
Well, I think one word is gratitude. Obviously, gratitude is the big thing, and that correlates to happiness. But also, I think people, a fear of change. And I think that, fear of change is a really big deal, actually. But we're changing anyway, aren't we? Everything's evolving. Everything's changing around us. But, when people have a job they don't like, or they're doing something, they just got that fear of change. Well, I would say to them, if something's not working, I have a poster on my wall in my office, and it says, don't expect to see a change if you don't make one. It's so true. If you're on a sailing boat and you're in the ocean and you're not moving, you move your sails, you change tack. And life needs to be the same. Don't stay in a condition that you're unhappy in, find a way. And it may not be instant, but, once the mind decides it wants something different, it starts looking for it. We create a form of hypervigilance towards it. Like if I said to you, oh, I'm getting I'm getting a lime green Fiat this afternoon. Okay, I haven't seen any, but I'd probably go out now and see 3 because we're more attuned to what we want. So I think the first thing that needs to happen is when we've got a desire, we've got to say that we want it. Let's be clear about it. Let's not be, let's not feel bad for wanting things. That's another thing. Don't feel guilty for that. This is a life to make the most of.
Yeah, and this is another conversation we've had in the past, which is around. I'm trying not to say the word manifestation, but this. If you believe you can, I believe you can't. Either way, you're right. And that if you believe you can achieve something, if you want something, if you go out and get it, or go out with an attitude to get it, then that's going to put you in a good step.
So if you want positive things, then you'll get positive things.
Yeah.
I just think people, fear. It's such a subject because fear controls everyone and everything. And you have to develop this ability to feel the fear and do it anyway. As long as you're going to be safe. I'm not telling anyone to do something crazy that's going to jeopardize their well-being, their health or anything. But overall, you've got to find a way to I heard a lovely saying yesterday, and it was, would you like to live life as a baby lamb, or would you like to live your life as a lion? Or some saying, live as a lion. In other words, take a risk, be the proud lion that's running around the land, or be a little baby lamb and sit in the field and and graze
I
on the
quite like
grass.
little
It's nice,
lambs.
isn't it? No, they're very cute, but they're not going to have the same sort of life as a lion, are they? Roaming Africa and
Well, a lamb's going to turn into a sheep at some
Mm.
point, and cute little
Yeah.
rascals, aren't
they are cute. But I guess the principle of it is, take some risk and take a bit of risk to enjoy life, or take no risk, because at the end of the day, taking no risk brings a risk. That's the irony of it, isn't it? If someone doesn't, if you want to play safe, then in the end, it becomes the opposite. Everything in life's opposite, isn't it? If you want to be fit, for instance, you have to be tired all the time from exercise. If you want to develop wealth with assets, you have to go broke all the time to save your money. If you want to, so everything's kind of got an opposite. So it's so easy to be a shrinking violet, and I am, believe it or not, I'm actually a very shy person. I was very shy as a child, very shy, and I was very, very shy. But I've just developed this ability to become more extrovert, and it's only developed because I was able to feel the fear and do it anyway. Otherwise, I wouldn't be who I am now.
Yeah, and what was your phrase earlier?
Well, I'm just a coward with
A courageous
the guts to do the guts to feel the fear and do it anyway.
And I love seeing someone who's socially nervous but clearly making strong efforts to overcome that. Think, how courageous that is for that person who's doing that thing. But actually, I think we're all doing that. Some people are just better at hiding the nerves. It's there for everyone. And that discomfort of putting ourselves out there is ever present for me. I've yet to meet someone who maybe I have, I don't know, but yeah, that discomfort we feel and having to push through it, and having the support of other humans who've been through that to support us in pushing, and because you've felt that, what it's like, the benefits, the reward in pressing on it. So
I do, and I do care what people think. But here's the thing: if you want to get round that, you just got to think, well, I'm nice, I'm kind, I'm caring, I'm giving, okay? And so people don't like me, then it becomes about them, not me. And that's the best way to manage that problem. Because a lot of people won't do things because they're scared of what people think about them. And they're worried about criticism. None of us like it. There'll be people that watch this and love it. There'll be people that watch this and find fault in it. But again, it's a reflection of them. It's not a reflection of us.
Well, if they're an hour and 40 minutes into this, they won't hear that. So.
No. Gosh, has it been an hour and 40
It
minutes?
has. It's flown by.
Oh my gosh.
Ivan, I think I really appreciate you coming in and being here today. I enjoyed being in your company. I enjoyed talking with you, and like just bouncing things around.
Yeah, likewise. Absolutely.
I feel like we've done a good job of keeping a rein on it a little bit today, because we've gone some very wacky places, and I love that.
Yeah.
I love exploring some corners of my mind with you.
Well, we kind of could never run out of things to say, could we? Together, we've got a lot in common, so it's nice.
So I appreciate your friendship.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate you being here today. And if people want to find out more about you and the work that you've done, how can they find you?
Yeah, well, I'm all over social media. It's just Ivan Rose Mental.
Everywhere.
Well, what I mean is the usual, the Facebooks, the LinkedIn, the X. I don't use that so much, but just you can Google my name, Ivan Rose, or Ivan Rose Mental Wellbeing, or my website's ivanrose.co.uk. And yeah, I'm always sharing new things. I always have a new concept, a new idea, or something fresh. So I think that's the important thing. That's what I like to do. And yeah, I'm blessed that I can, and I'm grateful that I have the opportunity I do. But that's where you can learn a bit more about me and get some more information.
Brilliant. Ivan, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Tim. Been a pleasure. Thank you.